All right, so if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Brian Cooper Owens. I'm an instructor in African American Studies here at the university.
How long have you been at the University of Mississippi?
I started in 2010.
Okay.
So,
And how long have you been a professor? Have you taught anywhere else? Or?
I have taught at the community college level, and I started out doing museum outreach, so informal education. So I've taught for quite a while, but this is my first university teaching.
Okay. Is there anything about blues music today that would make it newsworthy for anybody?
I think the whole newsworthiness, relevancy of blues has been sort of usurped by hip hop. So the things that blues would have been newsworthy for, hip hop's already doing all that. I think in some ways blues, like jazz, is kind of, I don't want to say dying. I hate to say things like that, but it's becoming more niche. How's that?
Do you know of any young blues musicians like currently, making music still?
In fact, particularly here in Mississippi, which is the birthplace of the blues, a lot of the old timers, their children play. What I'm trying to think of there's an event that goes on like once a month or so out here called Afrosippi, which is sort of a celebration of African musical styles and blues and all together. And you'll get a lot of local folks coming out to that. I know that, see, right now I'm trying to think of names, and details are not my strongest suit. That's why I use my PowerPoints. But all you gotta do is go to the Sunflower Blues Festival or go to the Clarksdale Juke Joint Festival. We've got so many blues festivals here in Mississippi. And yeah, there are the folks who are, 70, 80 years old that have been doing this for a long time, but there are younger people too. One of the folks I like to kind of see when I go to Clarksdale, his name is Super Chicken, and his band is called the Fighting Cocks. And his band is young women. So there are people coming into it. Like I said, I don't think it's dying, it's just becoming more niche.
Okay.
Right? There are no blues radio stations.
Right.
Well, maybe there's a few. There aren't many of them. So.
With hip hop music, then, why do you think it is so popular amongst the youth now?
Couple reasons. One, hip hop, like rock and roll before it, celebrates rebellion. It celebrates all these things that you're not supposed to do. But also, more importantly, hip hop is marketed toward young folks. We tend to like the things that people spend billions of dollars telling us that we should like. So it's got that double whammy there, right? It's already doing what young folks want, and young folks are being told this is what you want. So it's everywhere.
How do you feel about the lyricism of hip hop in today? Has it changed from the
I don't think
past?
it's changed. It's narrowed. The things that we see in hip hop today, they've always been there. We complain about hip hop now just being about partying and having a good time. The first hip hop album I ever bought was Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang, which is about partying and having a good time. It's the same sort of thing. The only thing is, when hip hop first starts out, it's much more broad. There is political hip hop, there is party hip hop, there is gangster rap, there's all these different flavors of hip hop. But, and I'll blame this on marketing and all that too, they've realized there is a very particular narrative in hip hop. When I say they, I mean the corporations that put it out, BMI, Sony, the folks who make money off of producing this stuff. There's a certain narrative that folks like. The celebration of wealth, the celebration of partying, this very hedonistic, carefree, it's not really utopian, just this party atmosphere. And so hip-hop has really become centered on that. Even the violent hip-hop that we have nowadays is people talking about violence at their parties, or it's all about this one thing. So I don't think it's changed. It's just become very, very one note.
So, if there is violent lyrics, do you think it's fair to blame that for causing violence amongst youth or kids?
Not at all. And I'm not being an apologist for violent lyrics. I'm torn. I do have some hip-hop folks that I like who make violent music. but I'm not necessarily a fan of just violence in general in the music. But I see it much more as a reflection of what people view blackness to be. There was this argument back in the 80s and the 90s that things like gangster rap were what they called ghetto reporting, right? This was hip-hop folks saying, here's what goes on in my neighborhood. I don't think we can really make that argument now. I don't think they were really good at making it then, because the folks who were claiming to do it weren't even from those neighborhoods. If you look at people like Ice Cube, who I'm a fan of, Ice Cube comes from a middle-class neighborhood in Inglewood, California. It is not the ghetto. But his claim was, here's what happens where I'm from. So it's more of a reporting of the ways in which we view black people. And we have viewed black people as violent for the last couple hundred years. The main image of black manhood in this country is that of the buck. The big, violent, criminal, thuggish black buck. So I think that they're just playing to this same stereotype. It's what we know about blackness. Besides, nobody ever says that horror movies cause violence. Well, nobody ever credibly says that horror movies cause violence, or heavy metal causes violence, or Dungeons and Dragons causes. It's the same kind of argument, and none of those work, and neither does hip-hop causes violence.
Do you think like artists such as like maybe Kanye West or anybody that has, you know, an impact on people because he's so he influences, you know, so many people, do you think that he should have to watch what he says? Like, or should he just be able to?
I'm of two minds of this. I'm of two minds about a lot of things. On the one hand, I kind of wish that he would. I wish that he would be like, wow, I could be a role model. Let me do something positive.
I don't know if you saw that interview with him recently.
I tend to avoid him. He
Okay.
drives me nuts. He strikes me as very pseudo-intellectual, and I have a problem with that. Plus, he needs to learn some breath control. I hate hearing him do that in between all his verses. But I don't think it's fair to say that this person... Nobody tells Madonna that she has to be a role model, right? Well, I'm kind of dating myself there since I'm referencing Madonna, not like Lady Gaga or something. So nobody tells Lady Gaga to be a role model. Nobody tells any of these white athletes, not just white, the Asian, nobody. It's only when we come to blackness when we're like, well, maybe you should be a role model for your people. Why? That's really unfair. Plus, like I said, the reason this hip-hop is doing so well is because it plays to a narrative that we are comfortable with and that we like. As soon as Kanye West were to grow a conscience and be like, I should do Afrocentric conscious hip-hop, he'll start selling as many albums as Talib Kweli, which is none. So.
And how do you think that they did this with the lyrics, though, when you say that they have, like, you know, the niche or whatever,